Lift off, the rise of Starliner, and a new era in human spaceflight.
Clear the tower.
When the spacecraft separated from the launch vehicle, we did not get the orbital insertion burn that we were hoping for. It appears as though the mission elapsed timing system had an error in it, and that anomaly resulted in the vehicle believing that the time was different than it actually was. And because that timing was a little bit off, what ended up happening is the spacecraft tried to maintain a very precise control that it normally wouldn't have tried to maintain, and it burned a lot of prop in that part of the flight. And when that prop got burnt, it looked like we weren't going to be able to go ahead and rendezvous with the International Space Station. By the time we were able to get signals up to actually command it to do the orbital insertion burn, it was a bit too late. And the reason it was too late is because it appears, and remember, all of this is very early and preliminary, and we're learning things moment by moment, but it appears as though we were between TDRS communication satellites, which meant we couldn't get the command signal to tell the spacecraft that it needed to do the orbital insertion burn soon enough.
15 seconds in. PU's gone to close loop control. Party 180 looks good.
The thing to know is, of course, once the vehicle thought it was at a different time in the mission, being autonomous, a lot of this runs on a timer, it began to do burns and attitude control. The flight control team reacted in a very professional manner. They recognized and the engineers diagnosed this quickly. We began to send commands to take it over. As Administrator Bridenstine mentioned, there was some delay in that until we could get a positive link as we went through satellites. Again, that's our hypothesis. That's why the link wasn't received, but we've got data to review there. And so the flight control team put the spacecraft in safe orbit. We're tail to the sun, making sure we maximize charging. All systems are good, cooling, power. In addition to the flight dynamics, we're also able to do far-field sensor looks and space-to-space checkouts of our optical system, so all of that is underway. The orbit we're in today, the reason we picked it and put it there is that allows us to return to White Sands in 48 hours. So without knowing exactly what was going on, the team quite rightly said, let me put the spacecraft in an orbit that I know I can control and get home and give the engineering team time to thoroughly figure out what's going on. So
Party 180 now throttling down to partial thrust as expected. Engine response looks good.
And if we would have had crew in there, number one, they would have been safe. To be very clear, our crew would have been safe. And in fact, had they been in there, we very well may be orbiting, or we may be docking with the International Space Station tomorrow, had they been in the spacecraft.
Skew maximum dynamic pressure. Chamber pressures on both SRBs continue to look good. RD-180 engine operating parameters also